Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
I tell you what, it's very rare you come away from Villa Park feeling disappointed. It's 2 points dropped for Newcastle potentially, and we never thought we'd be saying that yesterday. Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle. Newcastle United have just been held 0-0 by Aston Villa at Villa Park. And yeah, it was overall a very quiet game in comparison to Friday's fixture of Liverpool versus Bournemouth, but arguably it was maybe one of the best performances Newcastle United and Eddie Howe could have hoped for. So, going straight into it, I thought originally, I actually thought the starting lineup was the wrong one at the start of the game. The rest of the team didn't. I thought not starting Jacob Murphy was an odd one. Strange decision for me because he was the only player that seemed like scoring at all in the preseason games. He got 3. No one else got, well, more than 1. And Murphy was the only one that really looked like scoring for most of the time, in my opinion. But yeah, when the first half performance is almost perfect, literally we were a couple of inches from Anthony Elanga, just maybe on the other side of his foot, slotting it away in the 3rd minute from a perfect first half performance. And maybe if Jacob Murphy starts instead of Elanga, we don't have that kind of pace on the right hand side, and that performance just isn't as perfect in the first half. So fair enough, we got the result. It didn't seem like the right idea. It ended up probably being the right idea. We'll never know. It's easy to say hindsight, but more than happy with the performance in that first half in particular. The rest of the first half, there wasn't really much going on. It was all Newcastle, really. As I say, a great performance from all of the lads. Just couldn't put it in the back of the net. Gordon had the most chances. Nice little low drive from the edge of the box, which was well saved by Bizot, and then a header from a wonderful cross from Barnes as well, but he just gets underneath it. It seems to be the story of Anthony Gordon at Newcastle. As a winger, I think he's fantastic, but as a striker, he's not there, is he? And that's not what he is, so can't really blame him for that. Second half is where most of the action happens. Villa show a bit more intent. I think it took 2 minutes for them to have their first shot on target of the entire game through Kamara. It's a good header. Probably gets too much on it. He gets if he gets more, well, he gets the almost the worst amount on it. Good contact. Great contact means it probably goes near post. Slightly worse contact means it goes probably a little bit more far post. But unfortunately for them, he basically heads it straight at Nick Pope, and it's good hands from the keeper. And then the big talking point, which, to be honest, it is a red card, all ends up. Villa didn't really create too much in the second half until maybe the 90th minute. But Konsa brought down Gordon. Villa had a cross in, I think, corner. It gets headed out. Elanga breaks, puts the ball in behind Anthony Gordon's, running around Konsa. It's not a great ball. I think with a better ball, Gordon has a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Instead, because it's not a great ball, Konsa can catch up with Gordon a little bit. And we do see Konsa bring down Gordon, puts his arms around him and just pulls him to the floor. You know that Anthony Gordon's playing for it and that he's trying to win that, which, to be honest, I can imagine was frustrating for other fans of not Newcastle. But I think also you've got to realise that any winger worth their salt does the same in the same position. Definite red card. Gordon has a great chance to score otherwise. Definite goal scoring opportunity. And then after the red card is where you start to think it's 2 points dropped. It's all Newcastle once again in the game. We don't have a shot on target against 10 men for 24 minutes. I think overall we didn't have a shot on target between the 16th and the 90th minute, which is 76 minutes without a shot on target, which probably isn't good enough. So final third, I have to say, I don't think we were good enough. But 2/3 of the pitch, I thought we were excellent. Very solid, better team at Villa Park, which I think very few clubs can actually say. I think Villa are on a 22-game unbeaten streak at home at the moment. And they've played the likes of, I believe, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, us, Paris Saint-Germain, etc. in that time, I believe. So it's one of those where you definitely would have took the point at the start of the game, and you would have took the performance as well. I think the frustrating part is just knowing that if Alexander Isak was there, or if Yohan Wissa was there, actually, let's not even talk about Isak. If Yohan Wissa was there, Newcastle United probably do win that game 1-0, because it's just someone with a bit of killer instinct. When Livramento's ball goes in late in the game, Gordon's on the edge of the box and he's trying to get there, but it's the run of a winger. It's the mentality of a winger of, right, ball's going there, I need to get there. The mentality of a striker is, right, the ball could go there, I'm already there. It's easier said than done. Like, I can sit here and say, oh, he should have had that mentality. I certainly wouldn't have that mentality. I'd probably be stood on the centre circle still with a stitch after running for 20 seconds. So it is much easier to say than to do. And you have to credit Gordon's effort. But you are just sitting there thinking of what might have been. With that, I think that's all I'm going to do for the review of the game. I'm trying not to make these solo ones 30-odd minutes. So yeah, I'm going to stop here for the Bionic advert. Then I'll go into player ratings, and then you can get the full match review tomorrow from the rest of the guys.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionic, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionic provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimize your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionic. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body is unique.
That it is. And what else is unique is these individual player ratings. So, Nick Pope. And yes, I am fully aware that error seems to happen on random all the time. I'm not taking it out because I'm human and I will get it fixed one time and hopefully that running gag ends. But yes, Nick Pope. I think to start off, Nick Pope had a good game. I'm going to give him a 7.5, and I know you can look at the distribution through the game and say, Michael, the distribution wasn't good at all. How can you give him a 7.5? And I know he only had 3 saves to make in the game. They were decent saves. For me, his distribution wasn't terrible. I think there was 1 error on the ball, but overall it was solid. The main thing for me that makes him a 7.5 instead of, let's say, a 7 is the fact of when those shots came in, every single one of them was held. You think that shot at the end from, I believe it was Ollie Watkins, if he palms that to the side, maybe they have a corner, maybe he ends up palming it into the path of someone else. But the same with the header from Kamara. I'm aware it's one of those, it is straight at him, thankfully. But it's how many times do you see goalkeepers go to catch it or they'll just punch it? And they'll make sure they get contact on it, should I say, just to make sure it doesn't go in the back of the net and then the rebound ends up, costing the team. So, very well from Nick Pope, 7.5. All the defence played well, but I think Nick Pope had a good game. Justified the selection over Ramsdale, which obviously was a big question before the game. Kieran Trippier. I gave Trippier a 6.5. I think he had a solid game. Villa didn't really do enough to get forward. When they did, Trippier was really solid. His experience showed. I think the reason I've gave him the 6.5 instead of something in the 7s was when it came, should I say, to being creative, Trippier wasn't exactly great, and he had the ball almost as much as any other player. I think only Tonali had more touches, and Tonali at least created something. So I think it's harsh talking about a right back's creativity, but we know how good Trippier can be on the ball. He was on the ball a lot and didn't really meet those expectations you'd have of himself. So That's why he's a 6.5. Still had a solid game. Two centre-backs. I'll start with Fabian Schär. I think it was very interesting that Byrne dealt with Ollie Watkins and Fabian Schär stepped out to deal with Morgan Rogers and stayed like that for the majority of the game. I'll give Fabian Schär an 8 because I think he did leave Byrne to deal with Watkins a couple of times, and he marshalled Morgan Rogers into one of the quietest games he's ever had. He made numerous interceptions. He was almost impervious in the air. But when he got ran at, there were a couple of times Villa got the better of him. And also, when you can see your centre-back partner running into you when the ball's going over the top, please just have a bit of communication, because arguably one of our best moments of the game is that where the ball floats over. You've got Dan Byrne and Fabian Schär both going towards it. Byrne's looking up. Fabian Schär is looking in a diagonal. He can see a 7-foot colossus. They're a lot better than Dan Byrne. They'll be able to see Fabian Schär there. So I think one of them had to give each other a shout. Fabian Schär was probably the one to do so. That hasn't impacted his rating at all. It was just something that kind of frustrated me. And then Dan Byrne, I'm going to give a 9. I thought he was an absolute colossus today. When you have a forward like Ollie Watkins, who, being in sort of FPL circles, everyone was saying, right, he's the striker you've got to have this week because he's up against a very slow defence. And when Ollie Watkins tore us apart like he did last time, you were thinking it's going to be a dangerous game. I was expecting a lot of goals, and Dan Byrne didn't give him a sniff. Tells you everything about his performance. Colossus. I think he ended up he made 10 clearances and generally had a really impressive performance. And then the last one is Tino Livramento. Probably quite similar to Trippier. He had a lot of the ball, but I think Tino was probably a little bit more creative. Had a few frustrating moments in the first half, particularly sort of in our third. But overall, I thought he had a decent game. So again, a 6.5, not much different from Trippier, but he was a little better creatively. And then Bruno going into the midfield. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to give another 6.5. It was one of Bruno's quieter games. I don't think he had a bad game by any means, but I don't think he managed to get himself involved as much as what he would have liked to, which is probably a credit to the 4 Aston Villa centre midfielders. They marshalled our midfield quite well. They had the extra man in there, but it was still a very even game. Shows Bruno, Tonali and Joe Linton did do well to most of that, and I think that was what led to us actually being one of the better team in the game. But Bruno will probably be the first to say he didn't have as much of a say on the result as what he would have liked to. Tonali did, again, for his own standards, it wasn't his best game by any stretch of the imagination. But I'll give him a 7. He was the engine in the midfield for us. He played well, had the ball more than any other player, just picking up loose balls, etc., which is something he does so well. Probably creatively, he'll say again, probably a little underwhelming for a player of his quality, but overall he had a good game. And then Joe Linton, I've gave Joe Linton a 6. I think it's very rare Joe Linton isn't the most physical player on the park, but I didn't think he had a good game at all today. I thought he should have been substituted a lot earlier because of the yellow card, which is ultimately a stupid one to get. Both feet are off the floor. He's not out of control, but let's be honest, we've seen similar situations where VAR's turned around and said, hey, you know what? Let's make an example out of this player. So it was that particular was a risky challenge. You could tell it was due to frustration. It was needless. And yeah, I think it was one of those where Joe Linton let his emotions get the better of him, like we've seen. But overall, I didn't think he had a great game. And then on to the front 3, Anthony Elanga. To start off, I'm going to give him a 6 as well. I think he had a decent game. The golden opportunity, obviously, in that 3rd minute, denied by Marco Bizzot. He's got a great turn of pace, but ultimately he should have done a lot better. Then also dragged a volley at the back post wide. 10 minutes later, he could have had a brace in first 10 minutes. But it just seems like he's really quite nervous and he's snatching at things. Lacked a bit of cutting edge, but there were promising signs. You could argue a 6.5 because of the ball he plays for Gordon, but as I've mentioned, it's not the best ball. But it does get through the defence, and that's why Villa get the red card. But I'm going to stick with the 6, and it's going to be a similar. In fact, it's going to be exactly the same rating for Harvey Barnes. Great cross for Gordon for the header, as I mentioned earlier. Connected. Well, yeah, he had a decent volley in the second half, but I thought overall for a player who, realistically, that front three is going to change in the next couple of weeks. If you're Harvey Barnes, you want to try and, make sure that Eddie Howe realises, right, I need to play this guy. He needs to be in the team. And that definitely wasn't the case this time around. It was a poor game from Harvey Barnes. Particularly with that trademark curler that he normally has. Had that opportunity right at the end and he skied it in, probably out of Villa Park, actually. So yeah, that wasn't great. And Anthony Gordon, to finish off, playing centre striker, I'm going to give him a 6.5. I think if it was Alexander Isak who put in that performance or Johan Wissa, I'd probably sit here and say it's a 6 or maybe even a 5.5. But when you force a player to play out of position, as a striker, because there's simply not the options there, it is a really tough one. I thought his work rate was fantastic. I think there's one particular moment with Tielemans where he manages to get back. The only issue is with that work rate and that tracking back, he's often not in the right positions as an attacker. But that mentality is perfect for a winger. You just don't want it a striker where it was today. We sign a striker in the next week, then all of a sudden that mentality from Gordon we're sitting there and saying is one of the reasons why he's the best winger in the league. And then, who knows, he could have got his goal if Conte didn't bring him down. It's his pace and his work rate that puts Villa down to 10 men, which could be the reason why we ended up with a point anyways. A great hard work in display. Just lacked that sort of clinicality in front of goal. Didn't really make the right runs at times. And honestly, I think it's kind of showed Eddie Howe that we can't go into another game without a striker. And I think, if anything, if I'm Brentford looking at that game, Johan Wissa's price tag's just gone up by another 10 million. Thankfully, I don't think that'll be the case. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it was. But yeah, that's pretty much all. I could go into the substitutes, but I don't think any of them were on for particularly long enough. Maybe Jacob Murphy. I can't remember exactly when he came on. I think it was like the 78th, 80th minute, something like that. And then Lewis Miley and Osula came on far too late for me. But at the same time, I'll give Eddie Howe a rating as well. Why not? I'll give Eddie Howe an 8 out of 10 because I think tactics-wise, he got it absolutely spot on. We started the game so well, and I don't know what he said before the game, but we outworked one of the hardest working sides in the league and made it look like they just didn't care. And you could see that they did, but we just played so well. The only reason I'm not giving him a 9 is because I feel like the substitutes happened far too late. And I think that's something we've criticised Howe for before. I know it is. When it takes you 24 minutes and no shots on target before you go, right, we're going to bring on our only striker after Villa get put down to 10 men, it's frustrating. I also thought Jacob Murphy should have been brought on a little bit earlier. He is arguably our best striker of a ball. When you've got 10 men behind the ball, which I thought Villa were going to do, it was probably more 7 or 8. Credit to them. They didn't just sit back and pray for a draw. But I think you've got to bring on Jacob Murphy a little bit earlier. Nice to see Lewis Miley get another run out. would have liked to have seen Osula a little bit earlier, but I know he's not the answer. So, yeah, there'll be a full review from the rest of the team tomorrow. I, myself, won't be around for at least a week as I'm away. So hopefully, well, actually, I don't have to say hopefully. I know you're going to get some absolutely fantastic content from the rest of the team for the rest of the week. So realistically, you probably won't even realise I'm missing. In fact, you might even enjoy it a little bit more. But from me, I'll catch you in a bit.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.